So welcome everyone. We have been doing these for quite a while now, since everyone was sort of feeling like a little overwhelmed and really wanting to spin their classes online. We wanted to make these Sawyer Social Hours, if you will, a time for all of us to connect with one another, whether you're a Sawyer provider, whether you're joining us as a guest star today and you just want to know more about online marketing for your online classes. Don't worry, we're going to go through some really easy tips and tricks today. One of the things that I would just love for, just to create a sense of community, chat into the room, tell us who you are, where you're coming from, and give us one thing that you're really proud of that you've accomplished in this kind of new online phase of running your content. I think so often it's so easy to highlight the things that are challenging and not working well, but I would love to just hear what is one thing that you're super proud of. Type that into the chat. Feel free to keep the chat going. But without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get started we have a lot to cover today with everything marketing for your online classes. All right. So can everyone see my screen? Give me a thumbs up if you can. Awesome. Amazing. So who am I and who is our amazing product marketing specialist, Ariana, who I'm going to kick most of today off to. Ariana is somebody who works closely with me for all things product marketing at Sawyer. So all of the email templates, all of the content that we write on our blog posts, all of that wonderful information that we're sharing with our Sawyer providers on a weekly and monthly and quarterly basis. She works closely with myself and other members of the accounts team to make sure that we're really delivering quality topics, marketing, making sure that we have our finger on the pulse of all things that our providers want to hear about. So she's going to be diving into a lot of the topics for online content, how to really make yourself stand out and how to get the most bang for your buck using a lot of free resources for providers. And then we have some guest panelists today. I'm so excited to talk with Valeen, who is our founder and CEO of Private Picassos in Park Slope. Valeen runs an amazing art studio, Private Picassos. If you haven't checked it out, please do. Now we all, no matter where you are in the country, have an opportunity to watch her classes. There's some really magical content happening, and we're going to talk specifically about her social channels. So, we're going to be interviewing her and asking some questions. And then we also have Cara Buffalino-Silman, who is the founder and CEO of Freshmade. And for those of you who don't know Freshmade does amazing family, all-age cooking classes, which is really remarkable. And again, just from her website to her blog to all of her social media, she does a lot of user-generated content. So we're going to talk to her as well and make sure that we're sharing all of those tips and tricks. And these are Sawyer providers just like you who, you may not feel like any of you are experts, but at this point you really are. You are bringing something really unique and special. I am really excited to get to see on a regular basis some of the magic that's happening. Shout out to Chef Arm from Scratch Bakers. She's been doing some amazing recipe cards, and I mean, somebody was making biscuits the other day and it looked unbelievable. So please connect with one another, collaborate, find ways to just watch what you all are doing, because there's some real magic and sometimes it can feel a little bit like you're going through this alone. So just know that there is a huge community of educators and performers and wonderful, talented people like yourselves that are doing this each and every day. So just know that we're going to hear from them, but they're just like you. So we'll be hearing from them in just a couple of minutes. And then tools tips. So our chat room is live and open. I hope you're all chatting in with Dylan. Dylan is our senior account manager and product liaison. I work closely with Dylan, and so does Ariana, to make sure that we're giving you all of the tools and tips that you need to run online classes. Marketing kept coming up on a lot of our office hour calls and through a lot of the support tickets that were coming in. So we really wanted to make sure that we were giving you all of the ideas today. What we're going to be talking about is really heavily about some of these marketing online channel best tips and tricks, how to make your activity stand out through titles and photography. We're going to go through all of your different channels and talk about audience segmentation as well, hear from our panelists, and then we'll open it up for questions. So I'm so excited to get started. It's time for Sawyer Social Hour officially, so sit back, relax, and get ready to go online. Though most of you are already online, there may be some of you who are still like needing that little push, so don't worry, we've got you covered. So without further ado, Ariana, I would love for you to chime in. How do we start marketing our online classes? So many of the people on this call today really just don't know where to start. This is a brand new business that they're running, and they really want to get the most leverage for, how do they market it thoughtfully and creatively?
Totally. I'm so excited to talk to you guys, answer your questions, kind of walk through digital marketing 101. For those of you that I haven't emailed or talked to, I come from magazines. I've worked at Domino, Backstage, worked for Oxford for a little while. I'm mostly always on digital channels. So today we're going to cover some basics from how to make your activities a tool to acquire users, like basic marketing jargon for digital channels and how to track on those channels, free ways to acquire leads. Dana will talk about segmenting those leads, and then we'll move on to social. I'm so excited. It's going to be a really great time. We're going to start with activities. I know all of you are on, most of you are on Sawyer. I think we have a few people who are interested on our call. So let's dive in. Activities are a parent's first touch point with your business a lot of the time. Obviously, there are outliers, but when we're thinking about online classes, especially when they're on the Sawyer Marketplace or on your website, you might be encountering parents who live 1,000 miles away. So you want to make sure that this touch point is clear and exciting, enticing. And I've added 2 examples to this slide to show that there really is no perfect formula for an activity. You want to be true to your brand. You want to showcase what you're doing, but the level of detail you may want to include will differ from class to class. So let's dive into titles. And if this is really basic, I'm sorry. I think that titles are so important because on your widget, on a Sawyer Marketplace, parents aren't always privy to your class descriptions or your business as a whole. And so your titles are your first chance to really show what your class is all about. I know it sounds simple, but being direct and being fun can make the difference of having parents click into an activity and consider booking it. You always need to make sure with classes, marketing materials that you double and triple check and read things out loud, because things that sound perfect when you're building an activity can actually look a little funky when they're live for people to see. I also, throughout this presentation, we'll talk about do this, not that. I want everyone to know that there are exceptions. This isn't a steadfast rule, but these are just things that I've noticed from looking at different provider classes and talking to my friends at Sawyer. I want you guys to have fun, and in your title, showcase your brand voice, use words, inspire, show parents what their kids can accomplish, but don't be overly flowery and confusing. Really want to think of your title as a headline that will get people to click into a class. Now let's move on. So activity descriptions, I think, are your secret weapon, especially for online classes and getting parents to book. I've had a few providers reach out to me about what sort of voice to write in, should I write in first person, second person, or third person? I'd always suggest second or third, and I'd suggest adding the most detail you can without writing a novel. You might want to highlight your special instructors, their education, what makes them super qualified and inspiring to work with. A breakdown of what your class entails. Do you spend 10 minutes getting to know your students? Do you end with a goodbye song? These are details that parents love. And then I think also, you just want to use this as an opportunity to let parents get to know you and your brand. What do you stand for and what's your why? Even if it's a sentence at the bottom of a description, it gives people context that they might not otherwise have if this is their first encounter with you. We've put a fun description in. You can format your activities with links, with bold text. Just always make sure to double check it, because things can get weird when you're formatting descriptions, and things might look different on your site than on the Sawyer Marketplace. So now we'll move on to imagery. This is my favorite part, and I think an image, this is so cliche, but an image is totally worth 1,000 words. But the great thing is there are so many stock image websites that you can use for free that are crisp and fun, and you can also shoot photography with your iPhone and edit for things like brightness, for contrast in an app like a Visco. It's really simple, and I think that parents sometimes have a hard time conceptualizing digital classes, right? Like, what does an art class for a 5-year-old look like through a computer? Like, how do I convince someone that's a good idea? There are so many, and every day resources are being added that showcase people engaging with technology and also engaging with art. So you just want to make sure that there's a connection between your imagery and what the student will actually be doing. I see your question about some of the free stock image sites, and we will totally send that around. And then I just wanted to go through like a quick do this, not that with images, because especially on Sawyer, it can be a little bit different or counterintuitive to what maybe you see working on social media or on your website. You want to keep images light and bright. You don't really want to add super saturated filters. You want to showcase people, and you want to make sure your images aren't filled with background space. So think about the background you're against right now. Imagine if you shrank yourself a lot and it was all background, you probably wouldn't want to click on that image. So just be mindful of that. And then keep your images, stray away from using grayscale photos, dark or unclear imagery. And you can have text on Sawyer Marketplace, but try to keep it at a minimum. And on your widget, the same thing goes, because you have things like your title, your age ranges, your location, your activity description that you can really rely on for those details. Your image should be doing more of the inspiring, showing what the class will look like. Let's go on to the next slide. And now we're going to vote. I noticed there are a few questions before asking, like, do you have examples of fun activities? If you've tuned into webinars before, you might know that Sawyer School of Magic is a totally imaginary provider that specializes in Hogwarts-inspired classes for kids. Which activity would you book for a child? Activity A is cauldron cooking for young learners, and activity B is class number 4 with Cassie. We're going to launch a poll, and I would love to know what you guys think is the better activity.
Can everyone see the poll? Awesome. Yeah, I mean, can't wait to share this. Keep it going, keep it voting. For those of you who are just tuning in, we've talked about using polls to really create engagement, whether you're using Zoom, Facebook Live has this plugin as well, so does Instagram. Really creating really unique moments where you can have these moments. You're sharing your screen, you want to do a fun poll. It's great for kids where you can call out something cute like, what's your favorite color, or where should we go on our magical adventure today? So it's just another way to create engagement while using some of these tools. So I'm going to end the poll and share the results. So obviously, left side, cauldron young learners. You guys get it. And you know, obviously, like here, this is maybe like a very black and white example, but sometimes it's not as clear. And so you really want to test a number of options. We see that activities that have children featured in them, really enjoying a class, will always win. I mean, if you have photos of kids engaging with your teachers, photos of I mean, the Dough Project does a really amazing job with this. Shout out to Chelsea. She's got like cute fat babies in buckets playing with dough, which, like, who doesn't want to see that? So if you are doing something magical and you have a photo of that craft, or you have a photo of kids engaging in some way, choose that over something with your logo and branding, because sometimes that can just, like, in a sea of options for families, they're probably going to choose something that, if they don't know your brand or what your kind of logo even means, they're going to choose something that resonates with them on an emotional level. And so that's where photography and stock photos, which again, as Ariana mentioned, we will definitely share with people some tips and tricks and resources around that. But just know that photography goes a long way, as do your titles, and so don't be afraid to experiment with it.
Yeah, and you really, like, with images with text here, there's like right and wrong are so abstract, and you have to be true to your brand. But with images, especially with digital classes, it can be hard for parents to conceptualize. So even if it's a child making art, that helps a parent understand what they're going to be doing, even if that child isn't in front of a screen. So I think you just have to go with what you would click on for your kid is a really great way. And then also you can survey our marketplace and do some research on what other providers are doing and what you like and what you don't like.
Awesome.
Great.
So, any questions in the chat that we should kind of pause? Any activity questions that we want to open it up for?
Nope, you can go right on ahead.
All right, cool. Let's talk about organic and paid channels.
Yeah, So let's dive into digital specific. I'm sure some of you know what these are, but I want to break it down for you because digital marketing, especially for online classes, really, really, really relies on these organic and paid channels. Organic channels are free channels or channels that you own. These are things like Google search, referrals. Maybe one of your classes was written up in a magazine or a local newspaper. Someone clicks on a link, that would be counted as a referral. Social media, you guys are already pros at that. Email, you probably pay for an email marketing tool like MailChimp or Constant Contact. Even though you pay for it, it's considered organic because you own this channel. And then direct traffic. These are people who might bookmark your site or type in your URL from their web browser. Paid, advertisements. We have paid search, which are Google ads, paid social media ads, media, it might be an ad in a local magazine, and then barters, sponsorships, or partnerships, which can sometimes be free, but usually require like a donation of funds or a class or time. So I group that into paid because there is something extra going into it. And so with digital marketing, these channels are important because you need to understand where people are coming from and how you can put more energy into the channels that do the most work for you. To see where people are coming from, I would recommend installing Google Analytics on your site. It's free, it tracks and reports on website traffic, integrates with Sawyer tools, and I bet a lot of people on this webinar already have it installed. But it'll break down these acquisition channels for you. We'll even break down to see what posts are driving the most traffic and the most purchases. In addition, you should also track promotions. Not everyone likes to discount their classes, and that's totally fine. But if you want to turn a potential customer into a customer, sometimes a first-time incentive really helps. And Sawyer has coupons that can really show you what promotions are working and what promotions aren't.
Yeah, and just to chime in about sort of coupon codes, I think what's really great about coupons is that oftentimes you're not really sure what channels are going to kind of work the best for you. So you want to make sure that you set up that coupon code with whatever publication you're working with. If it's a mom's group, if it's Park Slope Parents, you want to make sure to have that in the trackable coupon code because you want to track your return on your investment, right? So anything that you're doing with paid, or even if it's not paid, you want to understand, well, what was the bang for your buck, right? I spent X and how many customers did I get? And thinking about it as, okay, maybe it costs you $500 to list with this email, but you got X number of customers who then are probably going to repeat purchase with you. So think about making sure that you're setting up some sort of trackable code, whether if it's coupon code or some sort of link tracking that you can make sure that you're getting an understanding of which channels are working the best for you. Okay?
Totally. And with GA, I see that some people are asking about installing that on your website. You have to install GA on your website that you own first, and then you can add your ID to Sawyer tools. And we can help you with that. But it's probably a conversation that we need to talk about through support.
Cool. All right. Acquiring leads. This is what it's all about, right? Like everyone is just like, where are these new people? I just want new people, Ariana. Where are they? How do I?
Listen, we all want new people. We all want email addresses. We all want to grow our followings, our reach, every business in this digital game. But with online classes especially, you really, really should focus on acquiring email addresses and then using your own channels to get people to convert. So I want to take a pause and I want you to think about, how do you acquire customers and their email addresses right now? I know some providers have iPads when their physical space is open. I know providers acquire customers in the marketplace, offering coupons, getting emails from social, getting emails on your website. But I really would love to see in the chat what you've seen work for you. And if email is something you've considered, and if you haven't, it's totally fine. And if you're not acquiring users on any of these channels, we're going to go through free tools that will help you get free leads. But which is great because in a way you have the opportunity to build relationships with leads and turn them into your super users. And so when we think about leads, especially in the context of online classes, online activities are your product. They're one of your products. I know that everyone here has in-person classes as well. And I know that some of you even sell items in shops or e-commerce sites, sell gift cards. There are many things that you can market. But online activities, you should really show that you're a digital pro because that will only encourage parents to book more with you. And I want you to really focus on marketing through these organic channels. Paid can come eventually, but as a best practice, what works on organic will probably work on paid and vice versa. So if you find that Facebook gives you a lot of email addresses, you can eventually sell Facebook ads, but you should maximize the number of free leads you can get first. And so I want a great exercise for this today and every day is to think about your favorite brands and how they acquired you. Did you enter an email to get $20 off, free shipping, a free yoga class, an intro class at a language school? Those are all things that I've done in the last 3 months that have worked. And you can emulate them. Take design inspiration, incentive inspiration, and use things like coupons generated through Sawyer tools to see what resonates and what doesn't. Then you can use your organic channels to encourage purchases. Once you have an email address, you can do this through retargeting, you can do this through email. There are lots of ways to nurture that relationship once you get the contact information. But you have to have that email address to get someone to purchase. It's a lot easier to bring someone back than to constantly be trying to market to people who don't know who you are and don't have buy-in.
That's a really great point.
Thank you. So I want to talk about how to acquire people for free on Instagram and Facebook, because I know a lot of us probably think a lot about Facebook ads, Instagram ads, those ads that feel like they're reading your mind sometimes. You can also use these channels to acquire leads for free. And I would really recommend trying that before you invest money in an advertising sort of program, even if it's small, like $100 a month. For Instagram, a lot of providers use Linktree or link in bio. These are free and low-cost services that send traffic from your Instagram feed to your website. I know a lot of you have probably seen that brands with 10,000 followers get a swipe up on their stories, but it's hard to grow a following to that size. And these are a great solution to create a connection between what you're posting and what's on your website. And make sure that your favorite Instagram followers can find your offers and find your blog posts, find your newsletter subscription and your classes. When in doubt, you could always just link to your widget. It's great to have in your bio. And then with Facebook, you can actually integrate Facebook with your email service provider. You would do this by going to your email service provider's website, searching for integrations, finding Facebook, and then connecting the two. It's very simple, but you have to have a business account. Then you would go into Facebook and add a sign-up form to your account page. You'll start acquiring users for free, but you'll have to market around it. The thing with Facebook is users don't know what to do, and you have to hold their hand. So schedule 5 to 10 posts on a consistent basis, whether that's once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month, to show people how they can find your newsletters. You'll be really surprised how many, you might think that you'll only get 1 or 2 if you have 1,000 followers, 100 followers, but because your businesses are so small and connected with your communities, people are going to be so excited to get your marketing materials. And then I also want to talk about your website, because this is, in my opinion, your most powerful tool to acquire users. You know the people coming to your website are high intent. They found you on search, they found you on social, or they heard about you and typed in your URL. And you can collect their emails here. And it's so important to have that touch point so you can communicate with them tomorrow, next week, and when your physical space reopens. Your website probably already has this built in. Think Squarespace, Wix, newsletter collection models. You can find them for this website's help center. But there are also free services that have better targeting, better designs, and more flexibility. So you can target people when they enter your website, try and leave, and different places where they land on your page. Hello Bar is a great service that will help you add an email collection bar to the top or bottom of your website. It's free for up to 25,000 site visits a month, which is a lot. MailChimp, Constant Contact, similar, has sign-up forms that they'll generate for you, and all you have to do is copy and paste the HTML into your website editor. And then the final one I have is free for up to 500 site visits a month. I'll let you know that the website looks a little bit intimidating. You can tell that this is a service that small businesses and enterprise businesses use, but it's easy to use. There's an editor built in, there are targeting rules, and it's free for up to 500 site visits a month, which is, I think, great for this audience. And I added some examples below. Private Picassos has a great online art classes available banner, which I know what to do. I know to click on it to discover online classes. It gives me the information. Freshmade, super similar. I love the size of this modal, the color, super on brand, and the description copy really tells me what experience to expect. And I added in a newsletter example from Scholastic, just to show that you can really have fun with these and add a lot of information in. They don't always need to be geared at an update, an announcement. They can be just a general collection box if you want to see what people like, just baseline engagement rates.
This is great. All right, so audience segmentation. So I'm taking this one. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Audience segmentation, why it's important. So Ariana spent a lot of time kind of talking through high level what we're doing to help you fill your funnel, right? When we think about marketing, it's all about that top line funnel of acquiring as many leads as possible. And then you want to nurture those leads through a series of really thoughtful communication. And the biggest step in making sure that you're doing this in a really wonderful way, if you have a large email list, you don't want to just keep utilizing the same messaging to just everybody on that wide list. Sometimes it's appropriate when you want to get the most people, if there's like a big event that you're doing or something where you want like the most eyes on an email. But most of the time you want to make sure that you're segmenting your lists, whether you're sending out targeted ads, messaging, paperless post is another great kind of tip and trick that you can like pull a specific list and then invite them to something really special. If people have unsubscribed with you, you can make sure to kind of tag them again through something not in MailChimp. You could just send them like a nice personal message as well. But thinking through each of the types of audiences that you work with on a regular basis. So the first main audience are people that you are currently seeing, talking to. If they're taking your online classes, that's amazing. You really want them to help spread the word. So the messaging to them could be, thank you so much for being a fan. We'd love for you to invite a friend. Here's a promo code to share just for you. For previous registered customers, so maybe these are people that have registered with you in the past, but haven't experienced maybe one of your online classes or haven't been back in a while, you have something new to tell them about, right? So even though they may have kind of gotten over some of the classes in person, maybe they moved away, guess what? Online classes allow them to be really engaged as another kind of audience that you can market and leverage, because now they can sign up for your online classes no matter where they are. So keep in mind, anybody that's in your kind of previous users list, make sure to re-engage with them again and see what they're up to and invite them to take something really wonderful online with you. Prospects and new users, this is that top of the funnel that Ariana was talking about. Once you get an email, you want to make sure to be as thoughtful as possible about what you do with it, right? So introducing who you are as a brand, making sure that you are educating them about why your classes are so special, giving them an incentive to try something. It doesn't have to be a lot. It could be a free visit, just a one-time visit goes a long way. But even just sending a message about, we want to add you to our newsletter, but here's a little bit of a welcome email that just lets you know what to expect about us. You could do what's really wonderful is educating people about who you are as an owner, making this as human as possible and making sure that you're standing out in a way that allows the user to connect with you, I think is really where brands that are doing a really great job right now are making sure that they're leading with what makes them unique, what makes them human, and what is their community all about, and why should I feel a little bit of FOMO to join that community. And then when we get into targeted lists, like there are a ton of reports that you can run on Sawyer tools to really drill down the different audiences or segmentation that you want to focus on. So examples of that could be you want to send out something, you're launching a new 2-year-old program online, or you're doing your preschool program and you want to do a demo class for people. You can do a specific age and target to those people in your list. You can do a birthday month. So for those of you who are doing our virtual parties, kudos to you. It's been really amazing to kind of watch some of these, both group parties and then individual private parties that are really kind of special and helpful to celebrate kids that are unfortunately not being able to be with their friends. So it's really kind of amazing to watch what's been happening. But that's an example where you could use Paperless Post, which is a free service to use. And you can send out something that says, hey, your birthday's coming up. We offer virtual parties. Here's something really wonderful for you. And again, the different audience lists that you have. So if you have your party purchaser list or your event list, or they came to a free trial but never really transacted with you again, those are really ways that you can start to segment and drill down to really refine the messaging. And I can't express enough like how good it is to make sure that even though you're selling the same thing to all of these people, you want them to come to your business, you want them to take a class, you really want them to first and foremost have a message that's engaging and specific to them with a very clear call to action based on wherever their audience makes sense, right? So if they're a current registered customer, the call to action could be invite a friend. For previous registered customers, it could be we miss you, take a class. For prospects, new users, here's our welcome email, learn our story, and it's linking to your about page on the website. So there's a number of ways that you can do this in really thoughtful ways, but just know that that's something that is super, super critical to make sure you're not exhausting your existing list. So if anybody has any questions about that, feel free to type in. Dylan, any questions coming in that we want to address sooner? If not, we'll keep on going.
I think the one that's related to what you just mentioned is about how to create these segmented lists.
Yep.
You just want to quickly talk.
Yeah, so in Sawyer Tools, so if you're somebody who's using Sawyer Tools already, you're going to go to your reports and you're going to build a new custom report. We also have a really amazing Help Center article about how all of these lists can be used. We have a really great messaging feature directly on Sawyer Tools. So if you just need to do a quick little message, we miss you, with a link, you can do it that way. I recommend downloading the lists and exporting them into Constant Contact or MailChimp, and then calling them something specific with the date that you last updated it. That way you can keep track of how often you're refreshing the list, what you're doing with it, but all of these can be pulled. So if you're pulling a child list, you could do that by age, birthday. You're gonna sort and manipulate in Excel. If it's somebody who was previously registered or registered for a specific activity, you can pull the booking reports for a specific activity. So all of those we have available on our Help Center, and we'll send that around. Dylan will type that in to the chat, but just know that it's it may seem a little bit complicated, but it's actually not that hard once you get started with it. And you can favorite those reports, so the more you use them, the more you can revisit them and then just update them and refresh by a certain date. So just know it's not as hard as it seems. The biggest thing to keep in mind is that just please don't blast out the same message to your entire list. It's just going to exhaust them. They're not going to want to pay attention. Ariana, you can probably speak a little bit more to that of best practice.
I guess with email too, and if that's something you guys like, segmentation, communication, I would love to talk about that. I could talk about it for hours. I would also recommend Constant Contact MailChimp in addition to these tools that we have in Sawyer. They have very powerful features that track behavior on a per email basis. So when did someone last click? When did someone last open? Does this person open my sales emails? And happy to walk you through how to look at those, pull those lists. They're smart, they automatically update, and it gives you a good read on who your best email customers are. Because if someone hasn't purchased with you, but they're opening all of your emails, you know you're doing something right, but maybe they just need an offer. So I think that those are things to also really research and really dive deep into. It can be a little intimidating at first, but know that the marketing and support team at Sawyer are here to help. We've all been there. We've all built emails. It can be tricky. I want to move on to social, and especially social in this online classes era, right? So we're going to start with some best practices, and then we're going to hear from some pros. So when you're thinking about your social overall, I would encourage everyone to follow your favorites and take notes, whether this is signing up for a newsletter or following your favorite blogs on every platform you can find. I also want you guys to consider planning, scheduling, and tracking performance in a spreadsheet. If you do this on a monthly basis already, great. Make sure that you're tracking simple things like number of posts, time of day, because then in 3 to 6 months, when you look back, you'll have a great data set to look at and see where you can grow and maybe where not to invest your time, because it's really valuable. Also, it's okay to start small as long as you stay consistent and try new things. Echoing what Dana said, and I'm sure all of you have had this experience, when a brand you love sends sales emails that sound exactly the same or all of their posts look the same, you probably don't want to engage with them as much. And I would encourage everyone to think really hard about how you can introduce variety, but also still feel on brand and fun. Especially with Instagram and Facebook, for the platforms to understand and serve your posts to the right audiences, you have to post consistently. That consistency can be small. It can be every Monday, every week, or twice a week, 3 times a week. It can be content that's not from your website, or it can just be a different class spotlighted every other day. I would encourage you to schedule these out. And remember that some things won't work well, but that probably means some things are doing awesome. And I want you to know that. Any digital is my favorite because things can be edited, archived, or deleted. It is the land of making mistakes, and I truly believe that you grow with every spelling error, with every weird time post you send out. And also my other tip is to claim your username on every channel you can find. I think online classes are a great example of a quick pivot to YouTube or Vimeo. You want your name on everything because you might not want to invest in things like Pinterest or Twitter, TikTok right now, but maybe one day you will. And it's great to have that in your back pocket for for a rainy day or for when you want to test something new. I love Planoly too. I see, Cara, that you posted. I use Planoly for my personal feed. I think it's really important to see what things look like visually because it's hard to get a sense, right, of what something will look like until it's posted, especially in combination with your whole Instagram feed. I also want to talk about why we're really focusing on Facebook and Instagram today. These companies both offer free business accounts that will give you analytics and the ability to reach a really large potential audience for free. And that 90% of social media users use these channels to communicate with a brand at some point in their life. I know I've messaged Outdoor Voices. I know I've messaged local yoga studios. I know I've messaged food blogs trying to ask questions through Instagram and Facebook. I'm sure a lot of you have had parents reach out to you through DMs. The kind of content you publish on these platforms can be similar. If you have a post, I'd suggest always posting it on both so you get the most eyes. But your way of addressing them should be different. Facebook is, in a way, think about it as if you were working on a magazine. Your content should read like a headline, and it should never give away the full story. Are you offering a class? Awesome. Tell me one thing special about it and encourage me to click through, but don't tell me everything because you want me to go to your website or your Sawyer widget. Again, schedule your posts on a consistent basis. Post verticals that do well on Facebook and Instagram. There's a lot of literature on what does best when. In general, you want to post in the evenings and afternoons and on the weekends. And make sure to add that email sign-up integration we talked about, just because otherwise, those are free leads and potentially free customers that you don't have to pay to acquire. On Instagram, 400 million people use stories every day. So post a story every day, even if it's just something mundane from your day-to-day, like so excited for this next online class, or sharing a post from a customer you love. Use your feed to really craft your brand, but also make sure you use a business profile because you can add things like contact details, booking details. So parents, when they look for your Instagram account, find it and know exactly what they need to do. And then I want you to also consider showcasing your content and customers through stories. Kind of like what I talked about before, it's so important to use stories on a semi-regular basis, almost a daily basis, just because they're fun. Stories are, I think, Instagram's best feature. And then add that Linktree link to make sure that you're driving traffic to your website or an email collection form. Super free ways to acquire free leads. There's nothing better. So I want to turn this over to our providers. I know
find Valeen. Valeen, I'm going to unmute you and we're going to spotlight you because we have some questions. Hello, it looks like you're still muted, so make sure that you're unmuted. Wonderful. Hi, welcome.
Am I good? Can you hear me now? Yes?
You're coming in here. Thank you so much for joining us. You want to give a little background about who you are and what you do, and then Ariana's going to ask you some questions because we absolutely love what you have going on your social channels.
Thank you. Thank you. So my name is Valeen. I founded Private Picassos almost 14 years ago. Our 14th anniversary will actually be on April 30th. It's going to be an interesting one, quarantined at home. But so I've had this company for a very long time. We started just with me with a bag of art supplies, literally going to people's homes, doing private and group art classes. We grew over the years slowly. We hit the Great Recession and we scaled back and then we rebranded. So I'm pretty used to that in a weird way. And then almost 5 years ago, about 4.5 years ago, we opened our bricks and mortar location in Park Slope. So we still have a mobile program. We have bricks and mortar. So that means we go to schools, we go to homes, we go to other businesses. You can come to us. We do birthday parties, kids, adults. We're kind of all over the place, but in the best way possible. And yeah, I'm really glad you guys are liking my social media right now because it's literally, I've never shared this much of my life and this much of my struggle of being a mom on my work social media, but it seems to be working. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Awesome.
Totally. And I wanted to ask, your story strategy is what you literally just said. I watch your stories every day. I think your space is awesome. And I love that you can blend online classes with your little one. I think the one that really stuck out to me was when I think a few days ago, he was upset about an art project not being perfect. And you had this amazing like developmental feedback alongside an art project. And I just thought that providers would want to know about your storytelling process, even if it feels new and like something you're experimenting with.
Yeah, it's funny because literally I think I saw some like Instagram flashback, and I think it was about a year ago that was the first time I ever used Instagram stories. So guys, I'm in my 30s. I should be more on the game with this, but I was not. And it was only a year ago I started dabbling with it. But honestly, when I was suddenly home and my business was shuttered and I was just wanting to put out more content and I realized we were all just trying to keep ourselves relevant, I just started doing more and more stuff at home with my son. He'll be 4 next month. And we already do a lot of art, but it was literally came to me one day it was a Saturday, and we were just like all parents are just giving into more and more screen time. And I was letting him watch more and more Sesame Street some morning. And then suddenly they were doing baking or something on the show and he wanted to bake later. And then they made instruments and he was like, oh, I want to make an instrument later. So I realized there was a connection. So I decided to give myself a challenge of designing art projects around the TV he was already watching, which is inevitable. And it went really well. And I had a lot of parents messaging me saying they were really grateful for that because it is hard to motivate kids in this time. It's hard to get their attention on a screen in the way that you want them to focus on a screen. So it kind of started with that. And then I realized this idea of a daily art prompt was a really good challenge for me. It was a good focus for my social media. It was good for the stories. So I mostly use stories to feature that. And then if there's one that needs a little bit more explanation or one that I'm really proud of, maybe I will definitely do a post about that on our social media pages as well. But that kind of is running sometimes in tandem and sometimes just kind of side by side with our regular social media feed, which I try to plan out in advance, actually post them at least 1 week out, basically, is how I'm scheduling that.
Great.
Yeah, so I hope that makes sense. So basically the stories are kind of, well, actually I should backtrack a little bit. The stories initially started with me kind of just coming up with ideas. Now pretty much every Saturday or Sunday, I sit down and I planned out my art prompt for the coming week. If there's like a little bit more prep work, I work on that when I have more time. Otherwise, I try to make it something as simple as possible for parents who don't have a lot of time or energy or mental bandwidth to do a big thing. And it could just be a few cardboard tweezers and some pencils. Set it up the night before, your kid comes out, they see it on their table, they're excited.
Amazing. I love it. And have you noticed like with these efforts that you're finding, that parents are finding and engaging with your online classes more? Like, do you see a correlation there?
I'm definitely seeing a little bit of a correlation with the online classes, but I'm seeing more of a correlation with my social media presence and the art kits that we sell. And also I just added curbside pickup at our studio. So I've been trying to post about different projects and using materials that are in the kits that we sell. And a lot of parents were messaging me, asking me questions when they could buy that or when it was to be available. I developed a new kit all during this quarantine time because I had the time. So I've definitely noticed that I've had more people will message me a few questions and I see them ordering from our online store the next day. So I think the fact that they're seeing some of these materials or activities in action in real life with a little child, not just me doing it for them, that intrigues them. And then I think also I'm asking their questions as they do some of our projects and giving them advice as to how to take it the next step or how to adjust it for different ages. So I think having that interaction has really helped with the physical products that we sell.
I think that's so cool. And I love that on your Instagram, you break down your different products. I know not every provider has sets and different types of classes or different things that they sell, but I think you do such a good job identifying your products and then kind of adding the value of them, whether that's like gently through an emoji or just like really careful copy. And I think that for providers especially, it's so important to have that information in the bio. How did you ideate around that? Where did you get inspiration from?
I mean, I follow so many really fabulous art studios on social media. I've always tried to follow places around the country and around the world, and especially I've been doing more of that now as well. And I see these questions. I'm going to answer these questions in a second. I'm not good at reading and talking at the same time, guys. I'm not good at multitasking. I can't do it. Yeah. So I mean, I think I remember the day it was like I was looking at someone's feed and I was like, oh, look, their stories. It looks so nice. How do I do that? And I figured out, oh, you make a highlight and oh, I'm going to make this image and I'm going to make sure it's consistent. So like you were saying earlier, just look at the pages that you are intrigued with and that you follow and that you're always going back to and get inspiration from them. So that's what I came up with. And then now that I've really utilized stories in such a bigger way in the past month is for sure, I've been trying to really amp that up even more. You know, but definitely trying to get just get inspiration from anyone else that's out there. It's constantly happening, and I take screenshots so I don't forget. And then I later, when I have time, I go through my screenshots and look at the things that I saw and see what I need to do with those.
I love that. I know I have a secret Pinterest board for marketing emails. It's so important to file your inspiration away. You have so many questions. Do you want to? Should we?
Sure.
I have a question.
Okay.
Maybe let's look. I see that Susie said, "Are you finding it challenging to have parents have the materials they need for your art classes?"
So sometimes, what we've done is we offer our public kind of online classes, which are at set times throughout the week. And for those, we try to keep the materials as basic as possible, like pencil, paper, and we always list substitutions. So if someone, we're doing a class tomorrow with one of our school providers and we're keeping it to basic drawing supplies, but I put a note in there being like, if you have scissors, glue, and colored paper, you can do this part as well. But if you don't worry, you can do this. So it's been a challenge for some people, but for the most part, it hasn't been too hard because we've really made an effort to stick to basic drawing supplies, even if it's a ballpoint pen and white copy paper. And recycled materials that everyone has. Everyone has 1,000 toilet paper rolls all of a sudden. So I've never brainstormed more projects around that material. And then for the private online classes, which we do, whether it's one-on-one or a few kids, that's a parent reaching out to us saying they want a class on a certain day and time for their kids, or it's a few kids each from their homes. And they send us a list of the materials that they already have or that they're willing to purchase on their own. And we design the projects around that. Some clients, this one mom sent me this beautiful photo of like acrylic and all these things, and we had full range of things. Other parents were like, we have construction paper, pencils, scissors, and that's it. And we designed it within that. So I think if you make sure you communicate with your clients that you are willing to be flexible and you're going to help them find substitutions, you shouldn't encounter too much of a problem. But just be as flexible as possible and be ready for those substitution questions, because sometimes they'll catch you off guard and you have to be ready.
Cool. Also, we have, someone asked about how you sell your art kits. There's They said, I'm guessing you do not have it all in your living room to package. Can you share a little bit about your art kit? And if
you'd be surprised.
The case
my husband
or not?
is not happy, guys. He is not happy. The corner of my bedroom, which I'm not going to show you, literally has post office boxes stacked up with some kits pre-packed, some extra boxes that I purchased that were too small to fit our things. And I filled up my son's room. All of the tall shelves in his room are just boxes of art supplies. So it definitely is happening here. So traditionally, we always sold everything out of our studio, and we've always had an online store, which is through the commerce website for Squarespace, which we use for our site. Honestly, online kits, whether it was our studio in a box or the kits that we do, mostly were purchased in person in our studio, but we would have, honestly, just a handful of sales a month on average prior to this. It has definitely increased since we shut down. So I have the unfortunate situation of just living far enough away from my studio where I can't go there every day. So initially when we first closed down and we don't have a car, I literally walked the 2 miles to my studio with 2 suitcases, packed a whole bunch of items up and brought them back here so I could easily ship things out in as close to real time as possible. I've now taken up bike riding again, which I just had to figure out all over again after 5 years of not doing it in the city. And now I'm biking to my studio at least once or twice a week. And I'm packing up more kits, but also allowing curbside pickup. So because we have a lot of parents who live very close to our studio or close enough on their walk where they would like to just pick something up. And that's been really popular. Honestly, I just started yesterday and we sold a whole bunch of items. Our online store was almost sold out so quickly because everyone was really excited we were doing that. So I'm kind of doing a combination of the two. I think you have to find what works for you. I do know that it also is hard to get some of our items in stock. So what I've been doing is going to my studio, taking stock of all the things that we already have. You know, there's certain kits that we don't have all the materials for right now and we can't really access them, but I have a whole bunch of other random supplies I bought for a school class that was canceled. So I'm going to repurpose them. So I think just think outside of the box and see what you already have, that you already have in a fairly large quantity, and start with that. And also you can very easily do create shipping labels through PayPal under their multi-order shipping option under tools. And we used to just ship things out via media mail. Now we're doing it through the flat rate shipping boxes, priority mail with the post office, just because I'm trying to get things out faster and it's become more of a business for us. So that's what we've kind of converted over to.
Awesome.
Thank you for sharing. I'm gonna.
The one thing, sorry, Ariana, I want to make sure we have enough time. So Valeen, it looks like you have a lot of questions going on in the chat. If you want to chime in over there, we're going to take it over to Cara, but don't worry everybody, we will open it up at the very end. We'll get as many of these questions answered for anybody who wants to stick around. Just want to be mindful of everybody's time. So we have our next feature. Thank you, Valeen. Like, truly, go check out her stuff. I am so impressed. And I think the biggest thing that you highlighted that I think so many of you are doing, and like kudos, like honestly, we could run a webinar a day with highlighting all of the magic that's happening at all of your businesses. So just give yourselves a round of applause. Like, you're really doing some amazing stuff. I think the biggest thing is like, you cannot be afraid to pivot and be flexible and do whatever you need to do to work with parents and meet them where they are. For those of you who are parents, which I think many of you are, it's tough right now. And so put yourself in, obviously you're in those shoes, but as a business owner, make sure that you're talking to customers. That is so critical, and making sure that you're listening to what they need, what they're challenged by, and figure out a way to fill that need. That is how every good business runs. You're solving a problem. You are making yourself available in a way that is showing up for families, whatever that looks like, for whatever your business is. So without further ado, thank you, Valeen. I really appreciate it. Cara, I see you here. I'm going to spotlight you now. Hello and welcome. Oops. So, Freshmade.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So Ariana definitely and I are, first of all, like both of us are obsessed with like Bon Appetit videos. So for those of you who haven't, and yes, hello, pupper dog. What is this dog's name? Super
His
cute.
name is Jax, and he happens to be obsessed with Zooms. Every time I'm on a call, he's like on my lap, trying to get in the mix. So this is Jax.
So tell us about Freshmade. How did you get started? What's kind of your brand DNA, and what's it been like going online?
Yeah, I've owned, well, I started Freshmade back in 2011, much like Valeen. I was doing a lot of mobile classes in people's homes and schools, and it just got to be a lot, kind of like running around the city with groceries and pots and pans and all of that. So in 2012, we opened the studio, and we've been there ever since until obviously now. We went online kind of right away, which was challenging, trying to figure it all out. And honestly, it's like day-to-day learning for me, and trying to figure it all out. It's definitely challenging, but we're enjoying it because we're getting to cook with a lot of customers who maybe have moved out of the city. Reconnecting with them again has really been nice. And we've started doing some birthday parties, things like that. So it's slowly like evolving and trying to figure it all out as we go.
Cool. Totally.
Yeah.
I think what really sticks out to me, I love all of our providers. I think you guys are all so special, echoing what Dana said, but Freshmade is, I know I'm obsessed with food, Instagrams, I love them, but what really sticks out to me is that you make food accessible for families and little kids. Like, I look at your recipes and I'm like, I could do this with siblings, with nephews and nieces. And you also do such a good job of sharing recipes and getting your audience to make them and send you the content. In like marketing land, for everyone who doesn't know, we call this user-generated content. It's when someone tags you in a post, maybe at one of your classes, doing one of your classes with something they made in their classes. And if you take a second to look at Cara's Instagram, her highlights are filled with people making your recipes. And how did you do it? It's so cool.
I mean, for us, we've always been really big on community, obviously people cooking together. Like, if you think about, when you have people over your house, the one place most everybody is congregating is the kitchen. So it's just about cooking together, because you're cooking together, you're talking, you're creating a memory, everything is centered around this dish that you're making, but it's so much more than just making a meal. So I think, and also with the kids, it's like they're so proud to just cook something on their own and share it with their family or share it with their friends. It's just been really nice. Like, parents are saying, like, my kid was occupied for 45 minutes making this dish and then sat down to eat it. We all enjoyed it together. They're just really finding this a great outlet in these times.
I think it's so cool. And I was going to ask, because I feel like pivoting for cooking classes, there's space, there's utensils, there's chopping. How have you found, I know you were talking about that transition, but do you have any takeaways on what you found that's worked and how you kind of bring the community of cooking a meal together into a world where we're apart together?
Yeah, I mean, we've been trying to, find some classes or recipes that are easy to substitute, easy to make, things that people, homemade pasta, it's only a few ingredients. People don't really realize that they can make this on their own. It's not so hard to do. We have parents that are like, I don't have a rolling pin. So, okay, great. I'm going to give you a few options. You can use a clean wine bottle. You can use a stainless steel, swell bottle to roll with, trying to find other ways to do it. Sorry, I'm really reading questions as I'm doing this.
No, it's so hard to multitask.
It's so hard.
I also, before we take those questions, I was just going to ask, I think both you and Valeen do great things with branding. And I was wondering, how did you ideate around your branding? What advice do you have for people still figuring that out? Because it's so important.
Yeah, I mean, Freshmade, I was just trying to look for something that was really clean and simple. And we definitely, since we've been open in 2012, have evolved and changed a bunch of times. Originally, it was like a cartoon character of myself and my daughter cooking. And
so
it's really, as the business grows, it changes, it evolves, always just trying to stay on top of, what's true to your brand and what, you're passionate about. And, for us, it's really about taking simple, fresh ingredients and making something, you know, delicious, and cooking together really is just kind of what we've always been about. So
I love it.
Trying to make that through, because everyone's home right now. People are cooking, whether they cook regularly or not. It's you know, it's a good thing to do right now, I feel like.
So many people are learning to cook too. I know in the chat people are asking, are your classes are live, right? Or do you offer pre-recorded classes? What does that structure look like? Our
classes are live we're doing like on the Zoom platform. So they are live. People register for the class. We send out an ingredient list, prep instructions, equipment instructions, things like that. And then everybody logs on at class time. We do record the class, so if somebody misses it, they can log back in, or they want to play it back and log back in to do the recipe again. We have not offered classes, like if you can't make the time slot, we haven't offered like you can purchase the class. I haven't done that yet, but it's something we're thinking about doing.
Awesome. And then I guess like I wanted to ask you a similar question to what I asked Valeen. Have you seen from all of this marketing that you're doing on online classes on social, have you seen, I know you're talking about families who've left the city and reconnecting with them. Do you have any other like correlations or insights you'd like to share with the group?
We definitely have seen a lot of new customers. We're cooking with people in California, Georgia, like we don't know these people. We've never had them as customers before. So it's been really amazing to connect. And I always ask people where, you know, how did you hear about us? You know, and they're definitely finding us through social. So it's been really, really nice to cook with people outside of New York City and people that don't necessarily come to our studio. I try to keep as much content as I can going. And much like Valeen, it's evolved into a little bit of my own personal, which I've never really put up there too much, but we're trying all to stay relevant and alive. So you have to
I think I mean, you guys are doing a great job. I love looking at your recipes. I'm always looking for inspiration.
I'm
going to let Dana take it away.
So, I mean, I definitely, you know, I want to open it up because I know, you know, so many people have questions and I am really just excited. I think, thank you, Cara. Thank you, Valeen. Thank you, everybody who has joined us. One of the biggest things I know that everyone is kind of struggling with is this idea of like, what do I charge? How do I communicate? Where do I start? And I think the biggest thing is you hopefully have an existing list of people that you talk to that have taken classes with you. Again, connect with them. Understand what is working, what is not. If you're really struggling to find, you know, the right balance of price, poll your customers, get a sense of it. You can always try. I always like a tiered approach of like, okay, if you put out free classes and you tried the suggested donations, how did that do? What was the average order value, right? So like if most people were free, but then there were a few donations, divide that over the total number of people enrolled to get the average price that people were paying. That gives you some data point. If you're really struggling to figure out what channel works the best for you, test them all. And like Ariana said earlier, make sure that you are reflecting back of what performed the best. That's where, you know, looking at your Google Analytics and traffic is really kind of amazing because you can start to see what's working, what's resonating with people. Same with emails. You want to see which are your best open rates. Was it time? Which activities are performing well? If you're on Sawyer Tools, you'll be able to see through your enrollment and your booking reports, which were the most popular, right? Which have the most kind of interest. How am I seeing that change over week to week? And really with online classes, I mean, it seems like we've been inside a lot longer. It's been 6 weeks. Just to remind you, it's just been a little over a month. And it feels like a lifetime, right? Because you're quickly trying to spin up this new business. So just know that all of these things have to be iterated on, and you have to use the data that you have and the customers that you have to get more answers directly from them. Because the reality is, yes, if you list on Sawyer, you're going to get traffic. People are going to have visibility, and all of the things that Ariana shared as best practices for the activity setup and all of the, people from all around the country that are looking at classes on Sawyer's online marketplace. But that's only going to get you so far, right? So you really want to make sure that your website, your social presence, the channels that you own wholly and fully, that you are doing your best to experiment with them and to really make the most of those marketing channels, because that's really where you have the most control and the most ability to drive as much incremental signups as possible. So I know that we are over time, but I want to open it up to anybody that has a question. Dylan, do we have anything that we should kind of address?
Yeah, I think, thanks for giving me the first shot at this, but
yeah.
Obviously I'm going to use a question from the chat, and actually like the question that I think has been asked the most, and I think, Cara, you answered it a little bit actually earlier in the chat, so I'm going to put this to you again, is about pricing, and in terms of like, how does that compare to what live classes used to be? Is it, are you pricing differently? Are you discounting? Are you doing free? And I know there are a lot of different answers to this, and it's dependent on like what the business is and who your audience is and all of that. But Cara, since you sort of answered it a little bit earlier, if you could just share that with everyone, I think that might be helpful for people here.
Sure. We are offering our classes virtually for a fee. It's much different from the pricing we offer in the studio. So our normal classes in the studio are starting around $42 a class. And then the classes virtually are we have it set at like $12.99. Obviously, we're just trying to keep our small business going. So I found that offering it for free is not really turning anyone away. People want to support our business. People know that there's a great deal of work that goes into putting together an online class, and that they're getting something out of it. They're taking the class. Their child is busy for the time allotted for the class, and then we follow up. We send like a certificate. Thanks for participating. They got the pasta badge on the certificate. We follow up with a recipe, and then afterwards, I'm going to send everybody like a Freshmade apron, once we get back to the studio. So, yeah.
One question that's coming in, are you charging like per family, knowing that people are kind of sharing screen? Are you sort of doing an honor system, like where you do want them to register per child, or is it just like a family fee?
I found that actually we are listing it's just $12.99 a class, but I do find some people are paying for 2 children or however many children are in the household.
Yeah.
And, I sometimes started in the beginning messaging like, oh, it's just $12.99. And people are like, well, we just want to help support the business. So, but I would be interested in knowing how people are, if they are doing like a donation based one, if they're having any luck with that. I like the idea of it. So I'm definitely interested in hearing about what other people are doing as well.
Yeah, actually. So is Elisa on? Elisa, if you're here, I know you started with this and then you've kind of pivoted. Yes.
I'm here.
Here you are.
We had a nap time meltdown, so that's why I went away for a moment. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Oh, okay. My screen did something weird. I might still get interrupted. Yeah, so hi, Cara. We are doing some donation and we are doing some paid. We have pivoted also to a membership program where they can pay a monthly membership through the Sawyer membership tool that allows them to get a library of online content from us. That's about 30 classes now of all of our stuff we've been doing the past 6 weeks put on our website. It's password protected. We also then do 2 private Zoom classes a week for our members only. So that's going well. It's definitely a way for families that have been big supporters of us to really, get some great content from us, as well as feel like they're continuing to support us through like a special membership program. But then in terms of donations, we went down to 3 free live Facebook classes a week. Those being donation with a suggested donation of $10. People can give more. The first 2-3 weeks of doing that since, March 15th or whenever we started, it was a lot more donations. Donations have definitely dwindled. I'd say the registrations in general, we do ask people to register on Sawyer, even though it's on Facebook, just because then we can get their information. Good job. Okay, dump it.
Hi, Evelyn.
She's supposed to be napping. Oh my gosh, where was? Oh, so we've seen a huge drop off in donations, which has made us start to go back to only 3 classes a week. I'm thinking about cutting 1 more. I love that we can give at least 1 class a week that isn't requiring any kind of fee, just because I know some people are in harder financial positions than others. But I am paying my teachers for those classes. So I don't know how long we can last. We make a message at the end of a donation, and some do and some don't. So I'd say it's kind of across the board, but I think as this continues on, people are getting more worried about finances. People are overwhelmed by all of the online content. And so we've definitely seen a very steady decline in donations for the free content.
Yeah. And I think that that's like a really good point to just bring up to everybody. Like Elisa's tried it and then quickly like started to see that changing and then changed her pricing options. So like, as you're seeing what is working, what's not, start to pivot, start to test pricing, knowing that like, okay, if the donations aren't coming in, somebody asked how to do donations. So we'll share in Sawyer tools. We have this optional add-ons that you can kind of use it. But if you're thinking through like, how do you kind of tailor this? Like a lot of what I'm seeing is some people will offer a variety of like low cost paid classes, right? Like that $12 to $15 price point. And then they can still do like 1 free event a month where you can have a larger audience. Again, like if we're talking about the kind of the lead acquisition, inviting all of your list to something free, that's that entry point into experiencing something wonderful with you, is a great way to then give them a taste of the Kool-Aid, right? Like they're drinking the Kool-Aid, and then now you hit them with, here's our really great schedule. We'd love to offer, here's a coupon code for $5 off your class. Like whatever it takes to get somebody to see value and to keep coming back for more. Definitely, I think like all of you are in the same boat. What you're experiencing is not, though it feels kind of like unique, like why aren't people coming to my business specifically? Like Elisa said, like parents are getting a ton of options right now and are trying to figure out what kind of works the best for them. And so you have to test to see what your community, because first and foremost, new customers are great, but you have to make sure that at the bare minimum, you're capturing your existing audience and making sure that they're coming back week to week and then building on that, because you can't just keep trying to like fill the funnel each new class. It's just not sustainable. So how do you go from the 20 kids that you always have? How do you keep them coming? It's a retention game, right? And then how are you inviting incremental new people to every single one of your experiences? And sometimes giving away 1 class at a discount is going to get them there. And so don't be afraid of it. Know that you can, again, continue to get them. What I've been seeing is if people pay, take 2 or 3 classes for free, they'll come to that 4th one and then donate because they've taken enough of the content to either see value, they feel connected to you. If they're able to, hopefully they will. $5 is something that they can contribute, and that ultimately goes towards, keeping your kind of business going. I know somebody had a question about teachers and stuff. So yeah, like just definitely like if you're thinking through, if your class sizes are dwindling, I know that that's a question that's coming up. One thing that I've seen is making sure that you're reminding people each week. If you're putting out your schedule so far in advance, sometimes like people aren't going back and checking on it. So what I've seen work well is if you're doing like 2 weeks at a time, so people can pick their classes for those 2 weeks. Other times I've seen people put out just like a 1-week schedule, and people know to check their inbox every Friday to see the new schedule. So again, create the sense of urgency, create the sense of FOMO, and reset with new titles, new options, change up some of the activity photography. If you find that one of your classes performing as well, try to understand why that is. Is it a photo issue? Is it a content issue? Is the title maybe not describing to a brand new user who you are and what you do? So those are all things that you can start to think about and improve week to week as you're kind of going. Dylan, any other questions going on in here that we should shout out?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So one just came in about thinking through planning for the summer. I know, there are a couple different angles here. Obviously, there's so much uncertainty right now. But I'm wondering if there's any insight that you want to share related to that.
Yeah, so I think listen, none of us are the governors of our states and cities, and the best that we can do, and we're going to be the next kind of round of communication coming from Sawyer is really going to be how to get ahead of summer. If you have people that are asking you about refunds and want more information, or what are you doing? And I'm panicking. The best thing you can do is get ahead of that communication, and know that we're going to give you some templates and things to kind of help you have that conversation. If you're worried about cash flow, be honest with parents and say, here's where we're at. We're waiting for our loans. We can offer X percentage now as a refund, this percentage as a credit. You have a ton of flexible options, but the biggest thing to keep in mind is that you want to be the first to communicate. You don't want to sit back and wait for the inevitable to happen. We don't know what camp is going to be like. I have a feeling some of it may be inside and outside. So I am hopeful that we still will have a summer, but until we know, we don't know, right? So the biggest thing from a communication standpoint is letting families know how you're starting to think about it. Using a survey is a great way to get people excited about what you might want to do for summer. So we're going to give some of those meaningful kind of tips for summer strategy coming up probably the first week of May. We have some other exciting news for next week, which I won't spoil the news, but just it's going to look really good, and you're going to be really happy about it. And it's a Sawyer Tools feature that we're launching next week. So I'll say that. I don't want to give it away. But yeah, summer conversation, just know if you're thinking through something, if you're worried about cash flow, we are here for you. We are here as a support. Here's what that email communication could look like. I'd love to, if you guys are chatting in, how you're thinking through it, but just keep parents calm, right? Let them know that you're going to take care of them, that you're not holding on to their money. Even if you are typically a person that doesn't have a refund policy of no refunds allowed, be as flexible, work with every parent on an individual basis, just like we talked about from Valeen, kind of working with people with supplies. What do they need, right? Is it somebody who is really struggling right now financially and just needs that refund to feel at ease? Okay, what can you contribute back to them? What makes the most sense for your business? And ultimately, if parents know that you're already thinking about it and you're being mindful of what you can offer. If you can't offer refunds, just know that the one thing there, even if you don't offer refunds, you want to just be mindful that parents, there's this behavior now that's I'm just going to charge back. I'm just going to, say I'm going to dispute this charge on my card. You never want it to get to that point because no one wins, right? The person that ultimately wins is going to be the customer. And so if you're not able to do refunds for whatever reason, even if it's if it's your standard policy and parents should know about it and you've written it everywhere, figure out what that person really needs. And if it's something that is they're really going through a hard time, it's never worth it to hold on to however much money it is for them to have a bad experience, to write about it somewhere, to put it out there in the press. It's just not worth going back and forth. So please be mindful about that. Don't fight people for what seems like a lot of money, but ultimately is not worth kind of dying on that hill, right? So I promise, once we know more, we will keep continuing to put out content. And I think our next webinar will definitely be around what are we doing for summer, right? We just don't know yet. So the biggest thing is get ahead of it, start to think through what you want to do. And like I said, we'll have some really exciting content coming soon for how to kind of navigate that storm. Any other questions, Dylan, that are kind of coming up? Let's see, summer programs. Yeah, follow the Parks and Rec schedule. I mean, industry trends, online summer, it can't hurt, right? I'm gonna be, this is my TED talk, and I've given this TED talk to a couple of people. I think the world as we know it is obviously changing forever, right? I think there will always be, especially until we have a vaccination, I think there will be a little bit of a mixture of hopefully we can get back to some in-person, maybe smaller size camps, smaller size in-person classes to help with social distancing. I do think that there is still this piece of your business that you need to really take seriously about online classes, because if we're kind of this in and out that the health experts are kind of saying could happen, I just want you guys to be prepared that this should be thought of as another long-term pivot, right? Just as Cara and Valeen and Elisa, I know all of you have pivoted your businesses. You've done it seamlessly and beautifully. And even though it seems a little messy right now and some people are not tuning in regularly, you have built something special. The biggest thing to do now is to take a look at what you've done in the last 6 weeks, start to do a deep dive, understand what's working, not, get feedback from families through surveys, polls, feedback, those reviews that come in through Sawyer. Look at what people are responding to and whatever they mentioned is not working really well, and start to change what you're offering, because all of that information is really going to serve what you plan to do for summer. Does that make sense? Like, this is learning right now, and it's 6 weeks and you have 6 weeks of data, and it may not seem a lot, but let's consider those 6 weeks as almost a year of running a brand new business. It sure feels like a year of running this new experience. So you guys are all part of this community. And again, like, type into the chat, we'll share kind of all of the chat text and information as a follow-up today. If there's any other questions, Dylan, I want to just be full of time.
No, I think that's all right. I think the recap is going to be great. We can then go double back and answer some stuff more explicitly there too. Yeah,
just so you know, if you're not using Sawyer right now, no problem. We're here to help. If you are thinking through, a collaboration is key. I have do all things with kindness today. And what side am I on? Do all things with kindness. I do think it really makes sense. I do think that the more you can work together in this time, talk to one another. On our Facebook page, we have an amazing provider Facebook page. Join our conversation there. Sometimes it feels like we're talking to ourselves. We know that you're all looking, but talk to one another. Ask for ideas. This chat here on our webinar is not the only time that you can ask one another questions and get answers. And one of the biggest things that we are learning from all of you, and really understanding what's working, what's not, so we can share those best practices with all of you. And we'll be sharing this video recording. So if you have people on your team that you want to kind of see this information, not to worry, we're going to record it. We are recording it. And we will send that tomorrow as a follow-up email with all of the resources that we've kind of talked through today. Ariana, any closing remarks? I'm so excited. This is Ariana's first face-to-face webinar, and many more. She is a rock star. I love getting to work with her. So any closing tips from our marketing guru?
I have loved, first and foremost, getting to talk to everyone. And I want everyone to know that you can always reach out to support, but you can also reach out to marketing. We are happy to look at ideas for banners, for emails. We talked a lot about list segmentation. I would really encourage everyone to look at websites like Sprout Social, like HubSpot, websites that you might not feel like are accessible to you. They're usually written in a really easy to understand way. And I think that you'll find that mastering these channels is not as tough as it seems. I think with digital, it can be really intimidating with all the words and phrases, but know that the team at Sawyer is super helpful, and we're happy to walk you through. Our marketing team comes from really diverse backgrounds, and we are so down to be in the weeds with you, figure out lists, figure out what's an active user, what's an inactive user. We're all in this together. And I saw a lot of comments about classes dropping off. And I think it's a great opportunity to really lean on those channels and kind of look at emails and social as your new way to build relationships when you can't see people in real life.
Love it.
Reach out. It was such a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us. So like I said, we'll stay tuned for our follow-up email tomorrow. Be well, take care of one another, be kind to yourselves. If you're parents that are juggling nap schedules, hi Evelyn, just know that it's okay. It's okay to be messy. It's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to figure it out step by step. We're here to support you, and you have a full team of dedicated people at Sawyer here for you, but you also have one another. So please don't forget that. Please don't lose that sense of community, because it is what makes us really amazing as educators and performers and artists, and why we do what we do is a little kooky and crazy, and we're not in it for money, but there's some magic that happens. And I see all of the magic that's happening, and we want to share that magic. So as one kind of final thing, if you are on social media, tag us in @HelloSawyer so that we can repost and share. We've been trying our best to get as many people to find out about you. There's so many providers that we want to highlight. Obviously, we drive as much traffic and engagement to our online marketplace. So if you're listed with us or if you're not listed with us and you want to kind of learn more, definitely let us know. But tag us at Hello Sawyer, and Alex and the team are really doing an amazing job just trying to get the word out about you guys. So while we try our best to give as much love and attention to everyone, that's the easiest way to just get a like, get a reshare, get a repost. So keep that in mind. It's just an easy way. And, I hope you guys all have a wonderful rest of the week and a wonderful weekend. Bye. Thanks so much for joining us.